Jess Ross, and I am managing partner and founder of Brand Fresh Management. Brand Fresh Management is an agency that caters to the entertainment, licensing, and toy industries. And I have a background in global licensing and marketing to help create innovative brand strategies that will drive revenue for brands. Yes, I have felt discriminated against in the workplace based on my gender. And I would say that it is at a very high level. It's a bit, has to do a little bit more with just it being systematic in our culture, candidly. And I have worked for very big companies in terms of just the executive boards as well as in the C-suite. So C-suite being like CEOs and the CFOs and the CMOs. Typically, the companies that I've worked at, it's been dominated by men. And so just by virtue of that, oftentimes you just don't get as much of a female perspective. And also men just tend to kind of lean into and lean on other men for other executive positions, again, just because it's a little bit of it's a bit more kind of ingrained in our system. And what happens is, as a woman, you become, there's less opportunity for advancement. There's certain roles that they sort of assume that you're going to fulfill versus roles that they are looking at men to fulfill. That's kind of the broad picture. Very specifically, I would say that, in my last job, I had a colleague who was a guy who probably had the same level of education that I have, but and probably even less experience in the role that they promoted him for. I wasn't necessarily being considered for that role, but it was surprising that he would be given this role without having more experience, and that when a woman wasn't particularly considered for this role. And as well, just my position, it was difficult to get into a C-level position because they just didn't consider me and women for this job. So it was challenging. I definitely think that there was some discrimination for sure happening there. Yeah, definitely. I think that it's been my experience that I've seen men get more opportunities, recognition, and salary for similar jobs that, again, women, and myself included, don't get the same level of recognition that men get. And again, it's interesting, and it's hard to be super, super specific because it feels like when it's happening, well, gosh, maybe that guy has more experience or he's better qualified. But it's what I've experienced in my 25 plus years, in my career, is that oftentimes it's really just men seem to be able to get more opportunities because men tend to promote men. And I don't know that it's intended to be that they're discriminating against women, but for some reason it's just women just aren't given the same advancement opportunities as men. I've experienced it. There definitely seems to be what has been referred to sometimes as a glass ceiling. So in other words, women can only get so far. And when I've shared my concerns with colleagues or even at some point, human resources, the human resources are not there to really kind of mitigate, those types of issues. Those are there to protect the employer, not the employee. So they try to kind of skirt around any concerns or issues of gender bias. I mean, if it's sexual harassment, they'll definitely jump in. I know that's not what we're talking about today. But there's really no kind of system in place to help women deal with, gender bias that's more ingrained in like advancement opportunities versus like sexual harassment, for example.